the evening was quiet. The sound of rain softly touched the windows. In a small kitchen, a man named Ethan stood by the stove, stirring soup. The light above him flickered, showing his tired face, eyes heavy, shoulders low, like someone who carried too much for too long. He was a single father, living alone with his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Life hadn't been easy since her mother passed away 2 years ago. Every day felt like a test: how to smile when you're breaking inside, how to stay strong when the world feels heavier each morning. Lily sat at the table, drawing on a torn notebook. Her crayons were small, almost finished, but she didn't mind. She drew a picture of a woman, her mother, with long hair and a warm smile. Ethan turned to look at her and smiled weakly. "Dinner's ready, sweetheart," he said softly. Lily didn't reply. She was staring at the drawing, her eyes quiet but full of something deeper. Then, in a small voice, one that almost broke the silence, she whispered, "Are we bad people, Mama?" Ethan froze. His hands stopped moving. He turned slowly, heart pounding. The question hit him like thunder, soft yet painful. He looked at Lily. She wasn't talking to him. She was looking at the drawing, talking to her mother's face on the paper. He swallowed hard. "Lily, what? What did you say?" She looked up, eyes shiny. "At school today, Mia said we're bad people because I don't have a mom. She said people without moms are sad and weird." Ethan's chest tightened. He felt anger and sadness at once. He knelt beside her, forcing a small smile. "Lily, listen to me. We are not bad people. Never say that again, okay?" Lily looked unsure. "Then why do people say it?" He had no answer, only silence. That night, after Lily went to sleep, Ethan sat alone at the kitchen table. The ticking of the clock filled the room. He looked around at the messy dishes, the unpaid bills, the half-broken lamp. Everything screamed of struggle. He whispered to himself, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I am failing her." He leaned back, remembering the night his wife died, her last words. "Promise me, Ethan, don't let her lose her smile," he promised. But now even that smile was fading. The next morning, when Lily left for school, Ethan checked her bag to make sure she had lunch. But something strange caught his eye, a folded paper tucked near her books. It wasn't hers. He opened it slowly. The words were sharp. "Tell your dad to stop pretending. Everyone knows your family is broken." Ethan's heart stopped. His hands trembled. The note had no name, no signature, just pain written by someone cruel. He sat down, staring at the paper. The words blurred as his eyes filled with tears. He wanted to scream. He wanted to protect his daughter from everything ugly in the world. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the note, about Lily's question. Every second made him feel smaller, as if kindness had no place left in this world. At 2 a.m., he walked quietly to Lily's room. She was sleeping peacefully, holding a small teddy bear close to her chest. He stood there, whispering softly, "You're not bad, my love, and I'll prove it to everyone." From that moment, something changed in him. The sadness turned into a quiet fire. Ethan decided he would find out who hurt his little girl and why. He didn't care what people said about him. He didn't care how hard it would be. All he knew was that someone had broken his daughter's heart, and he would do anything to fix it. As he looked at the folded note once more, the rain outside grew stronger. Thunder rolled across the sky. Ethan took a deep breath and said quietly, "They think we're bad people? Then they don't know what good really is." And with that, the story truly began. Morning sunlight touched the kitchen walls, but Ethan didn't feel its warmth. He sat at the table with a cup of cold coffee, staring at the folded note again. The cruel words kept echoing in his mind. "Everyone knows your family's broken." He folded it tightly and slipped it into his pocket before Lily woke up. He didn't want her to see it. She was still innocent, still believing the world could be kind. He didn't want that to change. Lily came out, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, Daddy," she said softly. Ethan smiled weakly. "Good morning, sweetheart. You ready for school?" She nodded, tying her shoelaces clumsily. Her small backpack looked heavy on her tiny shoulders. As they walked to the bus stop, Ethan watched her skip ahead, full of energy and dreams. For a moment, he wished he could see the world through her eyes again, but the note in his pocket burned like fire. Someone had written those words. Someone had made his little girl feel unwanted, and Ethan needed to know who. Later that morning, after dropping Lily off, Ethan went to the school. The hallway smelled like chalk and floor cleaner. Children's laughter echoed from classrooms, innocent and free. But inside Ethan, there was only silence. He met Mrs. Carter, Lily's teacher, a kind woman with gentle eyes. She looked surprised to see him. "Mr. Miller, is everything okay?" Ethan tried to smile. "I just wanted to ask about Lily. She came home upset yesterday. Said someone called us bad people." Mrs. Carter frowned. "Oh no, I didn't know that happened. She's a bright, sweet girl." Ethan hesitated, then showed her the note. Her eyes widened as she read it. "This is awful," she whispered. "Who would write something like this?" "That's what I want to know," Ethan replied, his voice low but steady. "Please, if you can find out anything, let me know." Mrs. Carter nodded, promising she'd look into it. Ethan thanked her and left, but his heart didn't feel lighter. He could tell something was being hidden, something deeper than a child's cruel joke. That evening, Ethan tried to act normal. He helped Lily with her homework, cooked dinner, and even told her a bedtime story. But behind every smile, there was pain. When Lily went to bed, Ethan sat near the window, watching the rain fall again. The sound reminded him of the night his wife died, peaceful, yet full of grief. He whispered, "I'm trying, Anna. I'm trying to keep her happy, but I don't know if I'm enough." He closed his eyes and remembered the promise. Don't let her lose her smile. But what if the world took that smile away anyway? The next morning, Ethan decided to return to the school, quietly observing from outside as children played. He saw Lily laughing with a small boy, thin, poorly dressed, but smiling wide. Mrs. Carter approached him later. "Mr. Miller, I think I found something," she said. Lily wasn't the one being mean. She was defending a boy named Ben. Some kids were teasing him for being poor. Lily told them to stop, and they turned on her instead. Ethan blinked, speechless. His daughter wasn't the victim of cruelty. She was standing against it. She was a brave little girl, Mrs. Carter continued. But kids can be cruel when they see someone different. Ethan felt a strange mix of pride and anger. Pride, because his daughter had done something good. Anger, because people punished kindness. He looked toward the playground. Ben sat alone on a bench, clutching an old lunchbox. His shoes were torn, his face pale. For the first time, Ethan understood the note wasn't just about him. It was about how people treat those who don't fit their idea of perfect. He walked home that day thinking about Ben, about Lily, about how small acts of goodness can make people targets. That night, he unfolded the cruel note once again, stared at it for a long time, then tore it into pieces. He whispered, "If they think we're broken, they'll soon see what real kindness looks like." Outside, thunder rolled again, not of fear, but of change. Because Ethan had decided something. He would find Ben. He would help him. And this time, no one would stop him. The next day, Ethan couldn't focus at work. The sound of machines in the small workshop faded behind the noise in his head. Lily was protecting another kid. Her little heart had chosen kindness, and the world had punished her for it. He looked out the dusty window, lost in thought. "Ben," he whispered, remembering the name Mrs. Carter had said. "Who was this boy? Why did the world turn against two innocent kids just for doing the right thing?" Ethan decided he had to see the boy for himself. That afternoon, he waited outside the school, leaning against his old pickup truck. Children ran out laughing, swinging backpacks, shouting their goodbyes. Lily came out last, holding a crumpled paper bird, a gift from Ben. Ethan watched quietly. Ben was small, thinner than the other kids, wearing a torn jacket, even though it wasn't cold. His shoes were too big, tied with mismatched laces. Yet his smile was shy and kind. When Ben noticed Ethan watching, he quickly looked down and hurried away. "Sweetheart," Ethan said to Lily as she climbed into the truck. "That boy, Ben, is he your friend?" Lily nodded. Yes. The other kids tease him because his clothes are old. They said mean things, Daddy. I told them to stop, but then they laughed at me too. Her voice trembled. Ethan reached over and touched her hand. You did the right thing, Lily. Always stand up for people who need help. She smiled faintly. That's what Mama would say. Those words melted Ethan's heart. His daughter was becoming just like her mother, gentle but strong. The next day, Ethan went to find Ben's house. It wasn't hard. Small towns have big whispers. Someone at the grocery store mentioned the boy from the broken house, followed a dirt road outside town, past fields and old fences, until he saw a tiny house leaning on one side. Its paint peeling, windows cracked. A weak smell of smoke came from the chimney. Ethan knocked on the door. After a pause, a woman opened it, pale, tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Yes, she asked softly. Hi, Ethan said. I'm Lily's father. I heard your son Ben goes to the same school. The woman's face brightened just a little. Oh yes. He talks about your daughter. Says she's the only one who's nice to him. Inside, the house looked worn out, broken furniture, old wallpaper, medicine bottles on the table. Ethan realized the woman was sick. I'm sorry for intruding, he said gently. I just wanted to make sure you're both doing okay. She smiled weakly. We manage. I can't work much, so Ben helps with everything. He's a good boy. Ethan's chest tightened. He could see love and pride in her eyes, but also pain. Before he left, he noticed a small hole in the roof leaking water into a bowl. Ben was trying to catch every drop before it reached the floor. That sight stayed with Ethan all night. At dinner, Lily asked, Did you meet Ben's mom? Ethan nodded. Yes, I did. They're good people, just having a hard time. Lily looked thoughtful. Can we help them? Ethan smiled softly. Yes, sweetheart. We can. He didn't tell her his real plan. He decided to help quietly, fixing the roof, leaving groceries by their door, buying new shoes for Ben. No one needed to know. It wasn't charity. It was respect. A week later, Ethan visited again with some tools. He repaired the roof while Ben's mother tried to stop him. You don't have to, she said, coughing. I know, Ethan replied, hammering the last nail. But I want to, when he finished. Ben hugged him suddenly. Thank you, sir. Ethan froze for a second, then smiled and hugged him back. Driving home, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. But that peace wouldn't last long, because the world doesn't like quiet kindness. The next day, when he dropped Lily at school, he saw two mothers whispering and pointing at him. Their eyes were sharp, filled with judgment. And deep down, Ethan knew something was coming. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers around town grew louder. People noticed Ethan's visits to the old house by the dirt road. Some said he was acting like a hero. Others called him strange. But Ethan didn't care. He had made a promise not just to his late wife, but to himself. He promised to keep doing good, no matter what others said. Each morning, before work, Ethan stopped by Ben's house. Sometimes he dropped off food. Sometimes he fixed small things, the door hinge, the broken fence, the leaking tap. He never asked for thanks. Ben's mother, Mrs. Parker, tried to pay him back with coffee, but Ethan always smiled and refused. You can thank me by getting better, he would say kindly at first. Mrs. Parker thought he was just being polite, but soon she saw how much he cared, not out of pity, but out of simple humanity. Ben had also changed. He laughed more, played more, and even did better at school. Lily and Ben became inseparable. They sat together at lunch, shared crayons, and told each other stories about their mothers. One afternoon, Lily came home holding a small drawing. It showed Ethan, Ben, and Mrs. Parker standing together under a bright sun. The words below said, "Good people help each other." Ethan smiled at the picture. It reminded him of what life used to feel like, full of warmth and purpose. But not everyone saw it that way. At the grocery store, Ethan overheard two women whispering near the fruit stand. Did you hear? That single dad spends all his time at that woman's house. Some people think it's not right. Ethan froze. He felt their words like knives in his back. He turned, gave a small nod, and walked away. But deep down, anger burned. Why did people twist kindness into something ugly? That night, he sat at the table, looking at the picture Lily had drawn. He whispered, "You were right, Anna. The world will judge us, no matter what we do." He looked out the window at the quiet street, his hands clenched around a cup of cold tea. "But I won't stop. I promised you I'll keep her heart pure." One Sunday morning, Mrs. Parker's health got worse. She fainted while cooking breakfast. Ben ran to Ethan's house, crying for help. Without a second thought, Ethan carried her to his truck and drove to the clinic. He stayed there the whole day, making sure she got medicine and food. The nurse told him quietly, "She needs rest and care. She's been skipping her treatment for months." Ethan nodded. He bought her groceries, paid for the medicine, and drove her back home. But when they arrived, a car was waiting outside, the kind that didn't belong in poor neighborhoods. A woman stepped out, neat clothes, tight expression, a social worker. "Mr. Miller," she asked sharply, "we received a complaint. Some people say you've been interfering in another family's matters." Ethan's heart sank. "Interfering? I was just helping." The woman didn't smile. "Sometimes good intentions can be misunderstood. We'll have to review this situation." She left after a few questions, leaving a heavy silence behind. Mrs. Parker looked at Ethan with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to cause trouble." He shook his head. "You didn't. People just don't understand." That evening, Ethan drove home slowly. Lily sat beside him, silent. "Daddy," she said after a while, "are people angry because you helped Ben's mom?" Ethan sighed. "Some people don't like what they can't understand, sweetheart. But that's okay." She looked at him seriously. "Then don't stop helping. You always say we should do good, even if no one sees." Ethan smiled, his eyes wet. "You're right. I said that, and I meant it." When they reached home, the sky was orange, the last light of the day fading behind the hills. Ethan looked up and whispered softly to the heavens, "I promised her, and I'll keep that promise, no matter what they say." He didn't know that soon that promise would be tested harder than ever, and this time the whole town would be watching. The days after the social worker's visit felt heavier than rain clouds. People in town started whispering again. Some said Ethan was trying to look good for attention. Others claimed he was too close to the Parker family. Ethan didn't fight back. He just kept helping quietly. But every time he walked into a store, he could feel the eyes on his back, cold, judging, full of gossip. At night, when Lily went to sleep, he sat by the window, staring at the empty streetlights. His reflection looked tired, older, almost broken. Still, he whispered the same words every night. "I promised her. I won't stop helping." One morning, Mrs. Carter, the teacher, called him. "Mr. Miller," she said carefully, "the school is hosting a charity night next week. I think you should come. Maybe it's a chance for people to see who you really are." Ethan agreed. Maybe this was the way to show everyone that kindness wasn't something to be ashamed of. He decided to help organize the event, a small fundraiser for families who were struggling, including Ben's. Lily helped him paint banners with her bright little hands. She giggled as her fingers got covered in colors. For a few hours, the house felt alive again, full of hope. "Daddy," she said while painting, "Mama would be proud of us." Ethan smiled. "I hope so, sweetheart." As the fundraiser day came closer, the tension in town grew. Some parents refused to attend, saying they didn't trust Ethan, stayed silent, unsure what to believe. Mrs. Parker, still weak but smiling, told Ethan, "You're brave to do this. Don't let their words change your heart." But deep down, Ethan could feel something dark building, like thunder waiting to strike. The night of the fundraiser arrived. The small school hall was decorated with paper lights and flowers. Children's drawings lined the walls, little pictures of houses, families, and smiling sons. Lily stood on the small stage with Ben, ready to sing a song they had practiced for days. Ethan sat in the crowd, his heart full of pride. For a moment, everything felt right. Laughter filled the air. People clapped. Even those who once judged him started to soften, seeing the warmth in his daughter's eyes. But then, outside, the wind began to rise. Dark clouds rolled over the town, swallowing the stars. Mrs. Carter looked nervous. "Looks like a storm," she whispered. Within minutes, the rain started hard, fast, relentless. Lightning flashed across the sky. The roof shook as thunder cracked above them. The lights flickered and went out. The children screamed. Ethan rushed to the window and froze. The road outside was already flooding. He turned to Mrs. Carter. "Ben's house is down that road. It's in the low area. The flood will hit them first." Without a second thought, he grabbed his jacket. "Mr. Miller, wait," she shouted, but he was already running into the storm. Rain hit his face like needles. The streets were rivers now. He could barely see through the wind, but he kept going. "Ben, Mrs. Parker," he shouted into the dark when he reached the small house. Water was already pouring through the door. Ben stood outside, crying. "Mom's still inside? She can't walk fast." Ethan didn't hesitate. He waded into the house, the cold water rising to his waist. "Mrs. Parker," he called. "I'm here." Came a weak voice from the bedroom. He lifted her into his arms and pushed through the rushing water. The current tried to drag them down, but Ethan held on. His muscles screamed, but his heart stayed strong. Outside, Lily's voice echoed faintly through the storm. "Daddy." He carried Mrs. Parker to higher ground, where some neighbors finally came running with blankets. Ben hugged his mother, crying and shaking. Ethan collapsed on the mud, drenched and gasping for breath. Someone shouted, "He saved them. He saved their lives." But Ethan didn't hear. He was looking at Lily, safe in Mrs. Carter's arms, crying but smiling at him through tears. He smiled back, whispering, "See, sweetheart? Good people don't stop helping." Then he closed his eyes, the sound of rain fading into silence. That night, storm took away the town's fear and left behind a truth no one could ignore. They had called him a bad person, but he was the only one brave enough to prove what goodness really means. The morning after the storm felt strange, quiet. Quiet. The streets were covered with mud and fallen branches. Houses were damaged, cars half sunk, but people were alive. And among them was Ethan Miller, the man they once whispered about. The man who had saved 2 lives. When the sun rose, soft and golden, it touched everything. Broken roofs, wet grass, and tired faces. It was a new day, and for the first time in years, the town felt something it had forgotten: gratitude. Ethan woke up in the small clinic on the edge of town. His arm was bandaged, his face pale. He blinked slowly, the bright light hurting his eyes. Beside him sat Lily, her eyes red from crying. "Daddy," she whispered, "you scared me?" He smiled weakly. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I just couldn't leave them." Mrs. Carter entered the room with a gentle smile. "You're lucky, Mr. Miller. If you'd stayed out there another few minutes, the flood would have taken you." Ethan tried to sit up. "How's Mrs. Parker? And Ben?" "They're safe," Mrs. Carter said softly, "because of you." Lily reached for his hand. "Daddy, everyone's talking about you. They're saying you're a hero." Ethan chuckled weakly. "A hero? No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who tried to help." But deep down, something warm filled his chest. Not pride, but peace. Later that day, the townspeople gathered near the school hall, now damaged but standing strong. Volunteers worked together, cleaning up, sharing food, helping those who had lost their homes. Ethan stood at the edge of the crowd, his arm still in a sling. When people saw him, they went silent. For a moment, he thought the judgment had returned. Then, one by one, they began to clap. A woman stepped forward, the same one who had once whispered at the grocery store. Her eyes were full of tears. "I'm sorry, Ethan. We were wrong about you." He nodded quietly, unsure what to say. Another man came closer. "You saved lives when we just stood here talking. You showed us what real strength looks like." Ethan looked down, embarrassed. "You don't need to thank me. Just be kinder next time. That's all I want." The next week, the town came together again, this time not for a fundraiser, but to rebuild. They fixed Mrs. Parker's house first. People brought food, tools, and blankets. The same neighbors who once turned away now stood side by side. Working until sunset, Ethan helped where he could, moving slower but still smiling. Lily and Ben ran around handing out water bottles. Laughing again like children should? Mrs. Parker, standing near the doorway of her repaired home, whispered to him, "You didn't just fix my roof. Ethan, you fixed this whole town." He smiled softly. "I didn't fix anything, Mrs. Parker. I just reminded them what good looks like." That evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned orange, Ethan and Lily walked home together. The streets were quiet again, but now filled with peace. Not gossip. Lily looked up at him and asked, "Daddy, remember when I asked Mama if we were bad people?" Ethan nodded slowly. She smiled and said, "I know the answer now." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh, really? What's the answer then?" She squeezed his hand tightly. "We're not bad people, Daddy. We're just the ones who care when others don't." Ethan stopped walking. His throat tightened. He looked down at her, his little girl, the same one who had once asked the question that broke him. Now giving him the answer that healed him, he pulled her close and whispered, "Your mama would be proud of you." Lily smiled up at the fading sky. "She's watching us, Daddy. I can feel it." They stood there in the golden light, father and daughter, survivors of storms both inside and out. That night, Ethan sat alone for a while, holding a photo of his wife. "I kept my promise," he whispered. "She still smiles, Anna, just like you wanted." He placed the photo back on the shelf and turned off the lamp. Outside, the stars were bright again. The rain had washed away the judgment, the gossip, the doubt, and in their place, it left something pure. Truth. The truth that being good doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real. And in that quiet town, under a sky full of hope, the truth finally shone.